You are listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
What's up, y'all? This is One Royal Way here on Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Joel Penfield. Josh Keiser joining us back again this week, and Jordan Foote is here, and he's wearing a button-down. How's it going, guys?
Trying to keep it professional in here, huh, Jordan?
It's just what I was wearing. I have nothing else behind that.
Is this
not really a conscious decision?
This is your casual attire, just button-ups?
Yeah. I sometimes do. I think because when I hosted the it's been so long that I can't even remember the Rough and the Kicker podcast, the Chiefs podcast. When I would have guests on, and really pretty often, I would always wear a button-up, and it was just how it was. So then once I had contributors for the site on, I would dress down a little bit. So sometimes I think I just get in that habit. You're like, oh, you're on camera, you got to be fancy, when everyone knows you don't have to be fancy.
If you need to see Jordan looking incredibly handsome in his black button-down,
don't take it that on.
Be sure to subscribe on YouTube. We're trying to up those followers, so be sure to check us out over there if you like watching the video side of the podcast as well. But this show, as always, brought to you by Kansas City Strength and Conditioning, one of the best places in the area. If you have a baseball or softball player that needs a place to train, they've been a huge supporter of One Royal Way since day one at KCSN, and we can't thank them enough for that support. Loaded episode today. We are getting that much closer to opening day. As of recording, we are 9 days away from opening day at Kauffman Stadium. I can't wait. Josh, are you going to be able to get away from work to get there, or are you going to be watching?
I'm not going to be able to do it. I'll be watching frantically from home. But yeah, family duties are going to keep me from Kauffman that day. But I'll be there really soon. Especially, I'll be out there actually Wednesday night for the MU-KU baseball game.
Oh, nice. I'm
pretty pumped for that. So I'll get that feeling, and then we'll see where I'm at that first week.
You getting out there, Jordan, or are you going to be watching from home?
Probably watching from home. I have the little SI gives us the Fubo TV package, which is kind of nice, and it comes with Bally Sports now. So I know that whole subject of discussion is another jar of worms that we can talk about off air on another podcast. But short answer is yes, I'll probably be tuning in from home.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be out there. My dad and I are going to go to the game together. Last year was the first time I'd ever been to opening day. It was my dad's first opening day, so we're just going to kind of make it a little tradition now, taking a half day and getting out to the ballpark. And it's either going to be 65 degrees and gorgeous, or it's going to be 30 degrees. I'm freezing my ass off like I was last year. But I got to say, Bobby,
going to be more the latter if this last week is anything to say about it.
Hopefully fake spring that we're in right now or third winter, I think is what it is, before we hit fake spring. Hopefully we're in that pocket in between where we get a little bit of nice weather before it gets cold again at the end of the month. So we can hope.
Yep.
But we're going to be talking about some of the roster moves that have been made. The Royals re-signed Jake Brentz. We'll talk about that a little bit. Talk about some of the guys that played in the World Baseball Classic for the Royals, how that has affected performance. And then this came out a couple of weeks ago, but we haven't had the chance to talk about it on the show. We're going to break down the MLB pipeline preseason top 30 for Royals prospects because this is your one-stop shop for all things Royals. We're not going to talk about the minor league in a full episode. We'll hit it, at least for 10 to 15 minutes a show once the minor league season gets going. So little preview there. So let's hit some of these demotions that happened. Obviously, a lot of the minor league guys are starting to move back down. Not a huge surprise. We don't need to talk too much about those. But the two big demotions that have happened, they're still in big league camp, but they are not going to be on the opening day roster. Jackson Kowar and John Heasley. Both have really struggled this spring. Heasley really has. Kowar's been up and down. He's had a couple decent outings. Over the last couple of outings that he's had, it certainly looked better than the Jackson Kowar that we are unfortunately accustomed to seeing. But one of the things I thought was interesting when they moved Kowar down was there was for the first time, really, it feels like there was a legitimate plan for, hey, this is why we're sending him down. This is not we're just giving up on the kid and, we'll just see what happens. They want him to throw his slider more. They think it'll really help his fastball and help him get to his changeup. His changeup is great, but he can't get to it because his fastball gets absolutely whacked. So this is going to allow him to have a really solid secondary pitch. Never had the feel for the curveball. And they made a point in his last outing for him to throw the slider more. He threw his slider more than his fastball. So seems like this is the repertoire they want him to go with. maybe he goes down to AAA and has some success. He can come back up and be either a spot starter or a bullpen guy. But what are your thoughts on Heasley going down, Keiser going down, and what it means for the guys that are going to be in the rotation bullpen moving forward?
Josh, that's all you. Go for it.
I know that they had. I mean, this is part of what spring training is sifting through all of these potential candidates for that rotation. So this was going to happen to guys, regardless of how good or how bad guys were in the spring. Keiser and Heasley just happened to be like the most obvious ones to kind of be the first ones sent down. So it's not it's not that surprising. It is tough to see, but like Joel kind of you said, both of them were kind of like not very surprising move. Personally, I had always a little bit more confidence in Keiser than I did for Heasley. I'm not real sure why. I think I'm partial to changeups, and with Keiser's, it's just absolutely.
I mean, having a legit 65, 70 grade pitch, it's an easy bet to make, even if the guy hasn't panned out yet. You can still lean on that.
Yeah, and his issue was always going to be control, trying to be able to command those pitches, command that awesome changeup, and then add to it. His fastball velo is pretty good. It's pretty straight though as well. We kind of talked about that with Carlos Hernandez as well. But I think that there is something to it. Joel, you mentioned the Saturday start where he threw a slider 42% of the time, 3 innings pitched, 1 run, 3 hits, and no walks, 5 strikeouts. So either they were expecting that fastball to be used a whole lot more. I sure as heck thought that they'd see more, but he's obviously working on that slider, so maybe there's a little bit to that. That's why there were so many strikeouts. But it is encouraging to be demoted and then have that start, have that obvious, this is what I'm working on, and they still can't hit it. I was looking at some of the it was a StatCast game, so praise be for the StatCastness, but I was kind of looking at his arsenal, those pitches were kind of talking and looking like, and I tweeted something about like it looks a lot like Giovanni Gallegos' arsenal as well as Luis Castillo's, and Castillo had command issues and a devastating changeup as well. So if that's the road we're going to take with him, great. If we want to send them out to the bullpen and be a reliever like Gallegos, I'm good with that too. But as long as he's getting command down, he's working on that command and as well as adding the slider, then I think I am a lot more encouraged by him than what Heasley's shown us in spring training. That was not great from Heasley.
Yeah, I think I was the flip side. I had always believed in Jonathan Heasley more just because I thought he had just enough to get by. And I was like, Jackson Keiser might not be able to get by because he has enough on the high end, but the low end, like his highs are going to be better, but his lows are going to be just absolutely catastrophic. And now, like Jonathan Heasley's spring training has been catastrophic. I mean, it's been objectively really, really, really poor. And I was like, man, he has the mix. The fastball is going to skate by. I think the home run numbers have been a little bit inflated. Like it's just all coming to a head right now, and it's not looking good. I don't know what is going to be going on with Heasley long-ish term this season compared to Keiser. I think Keiser has a very defined plan. I think he has a way to fix it. Heasley, I just don't know how much more dynamic that fastball is going to get and how much better it's going to get or how much he can make it. He's an easy guy to root for and a guy that I think in the right situation could quote unquote figure it out. But like if you're getting 10 poker chips to bet on these guys right now, I think you're throwing like 8 on Keiser and 2 on Heasley if you have to use all 10. When in the past I was like 6-4 or like 7-3, the flip side. Now I think I'm starting to see the other side of it a little bit more.
Yeah, in defense of John Heasley though, he is a fly ball pitcher pitching in Arizona in the in spring, and that's a hitter's league compared to the Grapefruit League in Florida. So there is some of that. I think some of those in the home run numbers and some of the fly ball numbers will kind of come back to earth a little bit in favor of Heasley when he can get back to Kauffman Stadium in a more pitcher friendly environment. So there is a certain element there, but he's got to figure out something with the pitch mix, and it seems like there is legitimate alignment with what Bo Sweeney and Paul Gibson are trying to create. Jackson Keiser talked about that. So I have reason to believe they're going to find a way to get both of these guys back to the big leagues at some point in some role. I'm not saying that either one is going to be a starter. I don't know if either one's going to be a reliever, but I know they're going to find a way to get these guys back make them solid big league pitchers and see what you have. You have to be able to evaluate these guys now before you really move forward and think, are these guys the future? You can't go in with question marks for either of these guys. Next year, Bubic and Lynch are involved in that as well, and they have not been amazing in their last couple of starts either. Could be some regression towards the mean from what they did early on in spring, but we'll see how it all looks. But I don't know. I think these were not incredibly shocking moves, especially with some of the results early on, but there's still hope that both of these guys can be able to figure it out.
Yep.
One guy that the Royals are bringing back is Jake Brents. He was DFA'd last season after he had Tommy John surgery in April of last season, and the results before that weren't that great, but they're re-signing him to a 2-year deal. I've not heard anything about his timeline for when he comes back. He had surgery, I think it was in May or June. It was
July.
So,
oh yeah, it wasn't.
I read.
Okay, go ahead, Jordan. Sorry.
Yeah, Annie dropped an article and said she thinks he's going to be throwing off a mound by the end of May, and then that could put him on a return time. I'm they're thinking maybe the full year, which honestly with TJ, you sometimes think if it's late July, early August, you're just done for the whole next season. That'd honestly be good news for the Royals. So I think it's possible he returns for the back half of this season. But with that said, that's with a rehab assignment. That's with, getting reacclimated. It's a worthwhile contribution from him, probably 2024.
He has, I think it's 3 options left. So, he's 28 years old. I think he can start refusing his options at 30. And so there is still some flexibility. But yeah, the article, I think, said maybe July is the timetable to start pitching in Major League games. And by that time, you never know how injuries are going to pan out. You never know how production is going to pan out. There's plenty of lefties in this bullpen already. So there's going to be a role for him, I think, whenever he is ready.
They must feel really confident in the way he's rehabbing, at least at this point. If they gave him a 2-year deal and not just hey, let's see how things work out in the back half of 23, they believe he's going to be a part of the bullpen in 24. He was really good in 2021, given how rough that team was. 3.66 ERA, 76 strikeouts in 64 innings, 1.25 ERA plus. So he was solid out of that. Last season was really bad, 23 ERA in 8 outings. But then again, who knows when his UCL actually blew out. So hard to look at those numbers and believe that what it actually was. So I have optimism that he's going to come back and be a decent piece of the bullpen. I know he's never going to be a high leverage situation guy, but a solid situational type guy, it doesn't hurt to have, and we actually will get to see him with some solid pitching coaches in 2023 or at the end of this season and next year. He was really solid with the previous regime, so I have reason to believe that he could be better than that. So we'll talk about the World Baseball Classic coming up right after this break.
Whether you're a Chiefs, Royals, Sporting KC, KC Current, K-State, KU, or Mizzou fan, we've got you covered. Thanks for watching this production of KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Sorry, I threw it to break a little bit early. Sorry, Jordan. You had one more point on Jake Brents before we move on.
No, you're good, dude. I think so. It's fully guaranteed. I think it's 820-ish thousand for 2023, and then just over $1 million for 2024. I think you're watching the fastball velo and how that takes shape once he comes back, just making sure he has that endurance and high end ability built back up. And then how his changeup is, because the changeup was producing pretty good results back in 2021. Last year, I hate calling it a wash, but I'm calling it a wash, for the whole season. So I think there's the ability to tap back into, like you said, Joel, he's 28, so he's no longer a young guy, but you're fully guaranteeing a really low contract for next season. He's not going to hinder the Royals from making a move if he's not good, but if he pans out, you have a valuable bullpen piece for, 1.5 seasons or whatever.
I've got 2 quick things too. One, a lefty that throws hard and can't throw strikes sometimes. Weird. That's what seems to be the MO of this, I guess, coaching staff on the pitching side, it seems like lately. And the other point was in Andy Rogers' article, they asked him what the whole negotiation process was, and his response, his quote was, "We made it pretty clear that I wanted to be here. I want to play here for the rest of my career. I love my teammates, the organization, the staff. I made it clear I wanted to be here. There was really no other thought to play anywhere else. but we had to be patient, work through the details. I'm glad it worked out. So we got guys that are staying loyal to this organization because they took gambles on them. And I want that to be remembered whenever this front office is taking shots on reclamation projects, on guys that have upside that maybe just need a little tweak. I want it to be understood and remembered that Brents is one of those guys at one point, and he has decided that he wants to play in KC as long as we'll have him. And I think that that's a big deal.
Yeah, I think it means a lot that I think that Brent's wanted to be here, because he could have very easily just gone, let's see what the market has to say, and I want to go somewhere else. But he wants to be here. The organization wants him. Seems like, a solid match there.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about the World Baseball Classic. We're down to the final. It's USA, Japan. Japan, Mexico on Monday night was absolutely incredible. One of the best baseball games I've watched. Not unlike Saturday when the U.S. played Venezuela and the U.S. came back, Trey Turner grand slam. It's been awesome baseball. We'll talk about the World Baseball Classic, what we thought about it as a whole here in a little bit. But some of the Royals, played significant parts in all of this throughout the tournament. And the first guy I want to talk about is a guy we were kind of critical of last week, and that was Nicky Lopez, or 2 weeks ago, where his starts with the Royals was really ugly. He was like 0 for 6. None of the at-bats looked great. Obviously, the defense is going to be good, but he goes to Team Italy and was a catalyst for that team. Came up with multiple big-time hits and big-time spots for them. And we know Nicky, he's going to punch it through punch it over the shortstop's head. It's not going to be real pretty, but it's going to get the job done. So I think, there is some credit to him for finding a way to kind of battle through whatever the struggles he had early on with the Royals in spring training. And now he goes to Team Italy and was a huge part of the reason why they were able to make it to the quarterfinals for the first time ever. So that was awesome to see. Michael Massey, while Nicky has been gone, I think has completely solidified the second base job. Not only with the glove, but he's been absolutely crushing the ball over the last couple of weeks in Nicky's absence. But Nicky is certainly going to be a part of this team in a utility role, which is probably where he's best served. I don't think he's an everyday guy at this point. But can he play 3 times a week and be awesome in the clubhouse and in those, 350, 400 at-bats he's probably going to get this year? Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, if we're talking about anybody's stock in the WBS or WBC that has absolutely taken off, it's absolutely Nicky Lopez. We were all talking about him potentially maybe not even on this opening day roster, just what he did, how he was last year, really had one outlier season. So you really started to question what his role was. Is it worth keeping him on this team? And in the WBC, he went absolutely bonkers. I guess, he's back. So it is very, we thought maybe it was a little bit questionable that he would go play because he was in a position battle with Massey, and maybe he did, maybe Massey did solidify that second base job because he's on fire as well. But 1156 OPS with great defense for Nicky in the WBC. So he certainly did wonders for his stock while he was there. So I'm really glad that it kind of worked out that way. There's no regrets or anything, I'm sure, with Nicky Lopez about going, even if he did lose that first base or the second base job. So it's just good to see that he did go and show out with really good players as well.
Yeah, and if anything, it'll make him, sharper and more confident coming back and all that good stuff. And he's a veteran. He's been around. He knows. He's split time with people. He's shared time with people. He's been overlooked by people. He's going to handle the Michael Massey situation well. I think it's worked out for Michael Massey too, as you mentioned, Josh. He's been hitting pretty well and playing he's solidified that job. It's going to be his. I think the floor with him is just a little bit higher when you account for everything. The ceiling, though, ironically, with Nicky Lopez's 2021 season, if you take that out, the ceiling's going to be higher with Michael Massey. He can hit. He's going to hit for more power. The defense is going to be good. You're not sacrificing a ton with that. I think it's a rare situation, and it's it's one job, so it can't truly work out well for both guys. But I think all things considered, that whole split, and it's really for the infield. First baseman have been hitting pretty well. Michael Garcia has been playing well. The WBC guys leaving have opened up at bats for guys in the infield, regardless of position. I think it worked out pretty well for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Another guy on Team Italy, Vinny was good. Nothing really to write home about, but we know how consistent he is. I'm not worried about maybe some of the struggles he had you know he's going to be just fine. Another stock up, if we want to play it that way, Salvi was awesome.
Yep.
He was so good in that tournament. He was the MVP for the pool, in which Venezuela went undefeated in that pool before falling to the U.S. in the quarterfinals. But that is so good to see. He was okay last year, battled injuries throughout the entire season. So, you know that it's, I'm not expecting him to get back to 48 home run, 21 form. But if he can stay healthy all year, if that tournament was any indication, we're looking at another all-star appearance for him, a solid middle-of-the-order bat at his point in his career. He's going to launch balls all over the yard. And it was really good to see him not only playing really good baseball, playing competitive baseball, and kind of that childlike joy that he plays the game with, really coming out there. I think it was, I can't remember who had the hit, but he was running down the line, and he's just like got this big old grin on his face, waving his buddy home, rounding third. Like that's the good stuff. It's not just the baseball stuff with Salvi. It's seeing him have that great infectious personality, and it seems like he's going to really be able to bring some of that back to the Royals clubhouse this year.
He hit that double down the third base line, and it was absolutely 2014 wild card vibes.
Yeah, scorched. Yeah.
You can't keep him away from anything. Like, you can't tell him to rest. You can't tell him to sit down and chill out. You can't tell him to not be excited. You can't tell him to not play in the WBC.
Because he was getting clobbered in that USA game, too. He was getting destroyed behind the plate.
He is going to keep playing until his body finally tells him, hey, dude, it's not working anymore. And even then, he might still try to trot out there and play. Like, they're going to have to, wheel that dude off the field just because he just keeps going. I don't know how much longer he can do it at a high level. A lot of that's going to depend on DH and first base reps. If that ever happens, obviously first base is far less likely now that the Royals have some cooks in the kitchen there. But it's something that anyone can appreciate, I think. Just a baseball fan at any level, any team, any country now. He is a star through and through. And I think it's just as much like the performance as it is like the personality and the profile and all that stuff too.
Totally a dude that you could see in a Savannah Banana uniform at some point.
Yep. Oh, yeah. 100%.
Wait, Salvi's 48 and he's catching? Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm sure he's doing a damn good job.
He is.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
It's a week-long stint in Kansas City, and Salvi's going to be behind the plate for every one of those games.
Of course he is. But no, so one of the underrated things from that Venezuela-USA game was a pitch. God, I can't remember who it was to, but it was clearly ball four. I think it was Kyle Tucker. Ball four, way above, a little bit above the zone. Salvi framed that sucker back in and got strike three. I can't tell you the last time he framed a strike in. That was he can get the low one pretty well, but anything else is not good. The fact that he was able to get that thing down, strike three, whatever he's doing with Paul Hoover, clearly has had some sort of impact very quickly. So I'll be interested to see if he can translate that and steal some strikes or get some strikes in for some of these Royals pitchers. But I saw that and I was like, oh, ball four. Hold on, what?
Yeah.
So that was good to see, even if it did not result in any success for Team USA. And I know that it was not the best outing for him in that USA Venezuela game. But Carlos Hernandez threw 102 miles an hour. I know Arenado turned it around, but I was like, wait, hold on. What is this? And in the game prior, I think it was against Puerto Rico, he's throwing, it's jundos just the entire time.
Yeah.
And he always has thrown hard. He's a big dude.
Yeah.
But this is one of those things you can't quantify. There's just a whole lot more FU behind his fastball now. You can just see the intent along with the top end velocity. Now it's just a matter of getting that thing to actually shape and be decent. Now we have seen more run on his fastball in the WBC than we have in the past. So shout out and thank you to Zach Bowe and Brian Sweeney for finding some way to make his fastball look a little bit better than just flat and disappointing at 101 miles an hour. So I don't know, man. Carlos Hernandez is such a weird, he's just an enigma. You'd think the Sesame Family Barbecue tweet that was modern baseball is so weird. The suit throws 102 and he has a 7.39 career ERA. It's just the way it goes, but
it's the Brandon McMahon situation.
Yeah, basically. And I mean, I think that's a really, really good example of just this should work and it just doesn't.
Yeah.
But
Well,
playing
and I
high
always,
leverage games, maybe there's something there. Like, I feel more optimistic about him. It's not much, but I feel more optimistic about him seeing some of those things that we saw for him for Team Venezuela.
well, and I think also just you always wonder. Well, at least I do. I can't speak for everybody, but you go into spring training and you have the off season with all these changes. Then you come in and get feedback. You get told what you need to work on, what's going well, what's not going well. Then you just dip out. You're like, all right, deuces. I'm gonna go play in the WBC. You wonder, like, do they keep working on that stuff? Do you have anyone else in there you're like telling them to work? Like, it's such a finite amount of time that you would think no one's like, hey, let's make this adjustment while you're over here. You really just want to play your game, and that's worked for guys like Nicky Lopez, etc. But for a guy like Carlos Hernandez, you think, man, he really could have used that time in spring training to keep fine-tuning and keep owning his game. And he had some really impressive moments. And you're like, well, maybe he's just keeping that in mind, and maybe they're doing some sort of like telecommunication. There's this thing called like FaceTime and all that good stuff that you can use. Like, and again, the timeline, you're not leaving for like 6 months or anything. It's not a full off season. You're just going over to do your thing and come back. So it's not detrimental by any means. But I wondered when he was going over, I was like, man, he could really use that valuable time in spring training. Didn't seem to hamper him at all. Again, he could come back and get absolutely shelled. No, it wouldn't really matter that he went to the WBC, I think, but that's just something. The first thing I always wonder when guys go over is like, where are they at in their careers? Where are they at in their development? And if you're confident enough to go over, then your coaching staff is probably confident enough to let you go.
And you brought up the coaching staff. That's kind of one of my big takeaways from the Team USA is like those were all dudes that were playing when my fandom was beginning. So like Ken Griffey Jr., Andy Pettit, Mark DeRosa. Now I feel super old because those guys are like beyond and in those coaching roles. So I was like, man, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I was like, I don't want to be reminded that I'm old as I am. So it was another pullback for me that the coaching staff is just former players that I used to love.
Watching Griffey take BP with all those dudes standing around was the coolest damn thing.
Yeah.
Like, Griffey was one of the reasons I fell in love with the game of baseball. And to watch him, like, I got a little emotional because I'm like, damn, that's so cool. I couldn't imagine what it's like for like Bobby and some of these younger guys, or even for Mike Trout to sit and watch Ken Griffey Jr. take BP. Like that had to have been just an incredible experience. It's hard to take really anything away from what Brady Singer and Bobby Wood Jr. have done in the WBC because it's been like 3 at-bats for Bobby, 1 outing for Singer, and it wasn't real pretty. But, it was, you could tell Brady was super amped up, and it just wasn't, it was not going well. But it's 1 outing, kind of throw it away. He looked good in the spring when he was in Surprise. So it is what it is. Maybe he'll pitch tonight. I don't know. Merrill Kelly is getting the start for Team USA. I'd imagine Brady's available out of the bullpen. So, we'll see. Have you guys gotten to watch much of the WBC as a whole? Outside of Team USA, not a ton?
I've watched most of the USA games, and then if like Italy, I watched because there was a lot of Royals on it. I watched a lot of the Dominican games when I could, just because they were. I mean, it was just a packed lineup that didn't make it out of their pool, unfortunately. But yeah, I got to watch a lot of those. I had not really watched a Japan game because every time I realized they were on, it was already like a 10-0 game.
So, yeah, basically. No,
they're ridiculous. They're so ridiculous.
Yeah, last night was the first time I sat down and watched the Team Japan play against Mexico. And there are some of those guys, like, it's incredible how talented some of those players are, man. Like, watching Roki Sasaki pitch.
New hotness.
Like, 21 years old, chucking 100 to 102 with, you think Shohei Ohtani's splitter is good? This dude's already a better pitcher than Shohei Ohtani. Like, he's got, like, the stuff is better. And the old phrase of what would you do for a Klondike bar? Like, what would you do to have Roki Sasaki pitch for your team? I don't care if the Royals don't spend in free agency for the next 3 years because Roki can't come over until he's 24 just to get Roki Sasaki in a Royals uniform. I know Talking Baseball made the joke. I don't give a shit. If it means the Royals don't spend for 3 years to get Roki Sasaki, okay, that's fine. I'm cool with it.
Yeah, and that would kind of line up with the contingent window.
Yeah. Add that guy into your rotation.
Sold. When you start looking at Japanese.
Even the dude that had the go-ahead home run, or go-ahead, the game-winning hit, Munetaka Murakami.
Yeah,
that ball was annihilated.
112 off the bat or 111.
Yeah, he had struggled the whole. He was another guy I was super excited to watch because he was 2-time reigning MVP. He's like 23 years old. Set the record for most home runs by a Japanese-born player in the MPB. Broke Sadaru O's long-time home run record. Like, I think he hit 50, 58 last year. And you could see in the swing, like, oh, yeah, this dude hits bombs. And then he just scorches that ball to left center. Like, oh, man, I want this guy too. Like, that guy's going to look so good in Yankee pinstripes. It's going to be stupid.
You're cut off. You're cut off, Joel.
But am I wrong? Like,
I know and that's the sad part. You're not wrong at all. You're not 100%,
which is like an iconic number because that was Hideki Matsui's number. Like, that's the way this dude is treated. And then and like Shohei's not lined up, and I'm like, oh my God, it was nuts.
It's gonna be an awesome game tonight.
Oh, it's gonna be incredible. And yeah, meaningless baseball, my ass. I'm so tired of those takes. I will flame anyone that has that stupid take. I don't.
And the takes about shutting it down because people are getting hurt.
No,
like. People go to spring training and get hurt all the time.
Justin Turner took a fastball to the face. Does that mean that we're going to stop spring training?
It's like, oh, athlete participates in activity, athlete gets injured. Like, that is Salvador Perez got hurt carrying luggage or whenever that one year, remember? Like, he was just, had nothing to do with being on the field. Like, you can't, unless it was like 90% of baseball players are getting hurt playing, like some curse or whatever. Maybe think about shutting it down to like something they're actively doing. No one's actively doing anything at the WBC to enhance the risk of getting hurt. Like, that's such a load of crap.
I still really want to make it every year. It feels like it is kind of a special thing when it's not every year. But give me every 2 years, I'm in.
Yeah, I think every year would take some of the luster out of it. But if you go every 2 years or even, I think every 3 is a solid way to do it because it allows a new crop of players to come up and it makes it that much more special, which I think is why tomorrow is good. Or, well, I guess as you're listening to this today, that what makes it so is going to make it so special is it's probably the last time we watch Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, Mike Trout in the Team USA uniform, Trey Turner maybe. Adam Wainwright, obviously. Like, there are some guys that we're not going to watch again wearing that Team USA. So that is going to make it really cool and kind of special to watch that. Because there's going to be a new captain and maybe it's Bobby in 3 years, and he's like the guy that's getting everybody to come and play for Team USA. Like, it's that, there's an element there. And it's going to be probably the most watched baseball game ever because of how the way Japan treats it. It's doing numbers in the U.S., way better than a lot of people thought it ever would. And it's going to be a sold-out crowd in Miami. It's going to be electric. It's going to be playoff baseball level, if not even more, in March. It's going to be special. And I cannot wait for it to be in the 8th inning and Shohei comes out of the bullpen to face Mike Trout. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could. And if it does, I tweeted it last night. It's probably going to be the closest thing we would have liked to see visually of Satchel Paige versus Josh Gibson. Like, two of the greatest baseball players ever facing off in that type of environment. It's going to be absolutely must-watch TV.
One of those may or may not be past their prime.
Which is kind of nuts to think that Trout's 31. Like,
it is.
When you said it makes me sad.
I know.
You said it could be the last time to see him in the U.S. I was like, oh no, you're right.
But it's not necessarily that I don't think he could. Like, I certainly think he's going to wear it again.
Sure.
I don't think he's going to be the captain. And when you're looking at it, like, he deals with the back issues. So how does that impact him as he gets to 31, 32, 33, 34? I hope that he doesn't. I want to see him play for Team USA again. But Mike Trout's one of my favorite baseball players ever. He's one of the greatest to ever step on a baseball field. And I want to just go and, like, just picket and just protest outside the Angels front office for ruining the career of one of the greatest baseball players ever.
Yeah.
That's why I'm kind of like, part of me is like, I want to watch Trout and Ohtani play on the same field, and that's awesome. But I want to watch Ohtani play in October, and I want to watch Trout play in October. So
one time.
I have theories, but I won't talk about that. But
I didn't bring my tinfoil hat with me, so let's save it.
I'll save it, but it's going to be super exciting. The WBC has been so good for the growth of the sport, and I think this is really going to be, if we look back in 2 years and baseball has grown significantly, not just in the U.S., but globally, even more than it is right now, you can look back at an event like this and go, that was kind of the turning point for what brought baseball back and what made people stop the stupid baseball is dying arguments, which is mostly from people that don't give a shit about baseball and they just want their stupid opinions heard. So it's exciting. And as someone that loves baseball year round, it's really cool to see even casuals go, hey, this is pretty awesome. I'm glad that I turned this on to watch Japan USA.
Yeah.
There's a lot to talk about there. Let's talk about the Royals top 30 on MLB Pipeline. We're going to do that right after this.
Whether you're a Chiefs, Royals, Sporting KC, KC Current, K-State, KU, or Mizzou fan, we've got you covered. Thanks for watching this production of KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
So MLB Pipeline released their preseason top 30 for the Royals, along with every other team in Major League Baseball. Be sure to go check those out if you're a minor league nerd like we are, for not just the Royals but everybody. Royals only have one top 100 guy, that's Gavin Cross. He's number one. I'll just run through the names really quick. 30 to 1. We can break it down individually after I do the list. So number 30, Luender Avila, right-handed pitcher. Number 29, Steven Cruz. 28, Tucker Bradley. 27, Daniel Vasquez. 26, Chandler Champlain. 25, Lisandro Rodriguez. 24, Will Klein. 23, TJ Sigma. 22, Noah Cameron. 21, Samad Taylor. 20, Peyton Wilson. 19, Austin Charles. 18, Mason Barnett. 17, Diego Hernandez. 16, Alec Marsh. 15, Asa Lacy. 14, Andrew Hoffman. 13, Luca Tresh. 12, Beck Way. 11, Jonathan Bolin. 10, Carter Jensen. 9, Angel Serpa. 8, Tyler Gentry. 7, Frank Mazzucato. 6, Drew Waters. 5, Caden Wallace. 4, Nick Lofton. 3, Michael Garcia. 2, Ben Kuderna. And number 1, Gavin Cross. Long list, a lot of guys. If you followed us or Royal Farm Report, any other place that covers minor leagues, you know at least some of those names. But is there anybody that stuck out to you when I read that top 30 that was either too high, too low? Jordan, we'll start with you. Anybody, what do you think?
I think, and this is partially, I don't want to say indictment. Indictment isn't the right word, but Ben Kuderna too. I like Ben Kuderna, and the problem is like you're having to find guys that replace him, but like the sample size still isn't crazy. The level still isn't crazy. He wasn't like overpowering or anything. I just want to see more from Ben Kuderna. And like, I think that is very projection based. Like that's what it seems to me. You're like, man, this guy's really going to go do great things. I like Ben Kuderna. I think he has, I'm trying not to say that I think he's way overrated on this list because you have to replace guys at that spot. But I just think that that's too high. 2 seems too high for a player like him right now.
That is basically just all ceiling for me. And I fully believe that he could be that guy right now. Like he is the highest ceiling of any of the pitching prospects right now, for sure. And there were flashes of that last year, being able to throw 3+ pitches, run the fastball up into the upper 90s. The walks got him later in the year, but he was 19 in his first season in pro ball. I'm willing to let that slide a little bit. Same with Frank Mazzucato. Like there were certain flashes of what he could be in the higher floor guy. But Ben Kuderna, like I believe that he is that type of guy, but I don't know at this point if I could have him over Michael Garcia or Nick Lofton on that list. I think he's easily top 5, but 2 is a little aggressive, but I understand why they put him there.
Yeah. I'm really him in general. I want to see what that muscle he put on kind of leads to. So I'm interested in that. I'm also interested in Tyler Gentry being at number 8. It was a guy I was kind of on him last year before he kind of broke out and had a monster season, but 146 WRC plus, monster BABIP that we also always like to throw out there. We had a monster year in high A and double A last year, and I really think that he came on very strong in those. He did get the spring training invite. He's not off to a great start in spring training, but he'll go down to AAA and really start showing his merit. And at this point, we could be talking about number 8 being too low for him on this list. But I think my overall feelings on this. I just kind of looked at it as like if you get a 45 or higher grade on it, you're kind of looking at roles in the MLB at the least. And they had 19 of those top 30 in the 45 grade or higher. And then 6 of them had a 50 or higher. So that's usually like an everyday player grade. So that is depth. There's not much, like we've always talked about, the ceiling of the height of the system may not be there, but the depth is there. And I'm very pumped to see that. And that's not even including guys like Nick Prado, guys like Nick Jackson Kowar. Like those dudes could absolutely bolster that. They're not considered prospects, but their clock isn't running potentially at the beginning of the year. So I think the strength of the system is there in depth, and we can add some high-endness to the system here in the July when the draft. I got a number 9 pick, 8 pick. What is it this year?
8 pick, yeah.
8. Okay. So yeah, we'll get a top 8 pick this year. That'll probably be a top 100 prospect, and we get a little ceiling to it too.
One guy I know the numbers necessarily weren't sexy last year, but I would have Carter Jensen inside the top 8.
Yep, I've got him on my.
Again, it's the ceiling of what he could be.
Yeah,
but 113 weight earns creative plus may not jump off the page, but to be 18 years old and play 113 games in low A, he walked 17% of the time. He has a very clear plan at the plate, and when he does swing, he does a crap ton of damage. Hits the ball super hard, hits the ball super far when he really gets into it. He's only going to get stronger. He's only going to get bigger and better knowledge of the zone. He could be a guy at some point in his minor league career that walks more than he strikes out. I don't know if he's going to be that guy at the big league level, but having that knowledge of the zone this early in his career, he's going to go to Quad Cities, and I have a feeling he's really going to break out and be, I don't think he'll get to top 100, but certainly could flirt with being a fringe guy at 19 in high A.
Yeah.
That is really significant for the overall development of the system. And I know that Drew Saylor is going to get that guy rolling, man. And with his ability to make contact and to make loud contact, along with the solid knowledge of the zone and not striking out a ton, I feel really good about where he's at. And I think he's going to skyrocket coming soon.
And the reports are saying that his receiving skills are very, very promising as well.
That is really
came out. Yeah, absolutely. They kept comparing him to Schwarber, who started out as a catcher, ended up as a very average, if not below average, outfielder. And at this point, they might be thinking that he could stick behind there. There's still plenty of questions about it. He's still got plenty of development to do, but I think that he's kind of ahead schedule from what they were anticipating coming out. So that's very promising.
If he can catch, if he can legitimately be a catcher, that is massive.
Yeah, that's huge.
I'm not buying that completely yet. I don't think it's necessarily out of the question. But if his receiving skills are believed to have improved a lot, that is a very, very good sign for his overall track of where he can go in the big leagues.
Yep, 100%.
Jordan, did you have anybody else? Riser, too high, too low? Anybody like that?
Nope, I don't think so. You can. The thing about this is you almost want to break it down into tiers, right? Because you're you can break it into 5 and say this guy's a little bit too high. This guy should be one spot above this guy. I don't want to nitpick too far into it. I think generally, and I'm most of the time pretty critical of lists like this, I didn't think it was that bad. I was like, this is actually pretty decent. I think there's just a lot of unknown in the Royals system, and it's a good mix of high ceiling, lowish floor, or injury concerns or durability concerns. There's just a bunch or major question marks about defense. So many elements go into this that I'm not going to be too harsh on them for underrating or overrating too many guys.
Yep. I think I had 3 guys that you could make a case to be included in the top 30, but they got to be just outside. They're kind of the same, high floor, low ceiling, and Darryl Collins, Rivertown, and our guy Javier Vaz, I think, is gonna potentially make a jump. But
I like Javier Vaz. Yeah.
But they're all got a great combination of great plate approach. They're not the fastest guys, but they do have some speed. The defense is, kind of here or there. But they're all good guys at the plate that can do some damage. I'm kind of curious to see what they kind of roll with between Collins, Town, and Vaz.
To jump back in here real quick, a guy that I think Will Klein was 24th on that list. I think this is going to be a big year for him.
Yeah.
And part of it is just me being a little bit biased because back when it was a few years ago when he got drafted, I was at Kings of Kaufman. I had a phone call with him, talked to him about ball and stuff like that. I was this guy's, Will's awesome. He struck out 15 hitters per 9 innings in his first sample that first year, but he also walked 5.6. You're like, okay, whatever. Then last year, he struck out double digits again per 9. You're like, okay, that's run of the mill for him, but he walked double digits as well. And it's just a major,
He got hurt. He got a spring, and it was like shin splint or something.
Yep.
And he never quite like settled and recovered. So like, I'm not writing him off because of an up and down or just flat out rough 2022. I think this is what makes or breaks his profile as a prospect. I don't think he's going to be in the same spot midseason. He's either going to climb up. They're going to be like, okay, this is a 23-year-old who has that sky-high ceiling, and now we're starting to see it. Because like last year, back at the beginning, this was a guy that people were saying like by the end of the year could be pitching at Kauffman Stadium and relieving games. And so it's going to go one of two ways. I don't think he's going to be in the same exact spot. I would be very, very surprised. If he doesn't produce, he could tumble a little bit. If he does produce, I think he could jump a pretty significant amount.
Yep. I mean, it's tough to talk about the rankings without talking about Asa Lacy and Alec Marsh. You talked about Jensen, but I think all three of them or any of the three of them could be in the top 5 of these rankings by the middle of the season. So they've all got the same, they all got juice. They all have a very high ceiling. They just got to get to it or remotely get to it in order to jump into those. But again, kind of speaks to the depth of the system is if those guys are in the teens or the 10 plus tier, it speaks to the depth of the system, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Anybody that you think could really like fall, like that you think maybe is a little too high and you're just not sure about yet?
Avocado at 7.
I was going to say that or Jonathan Bolin maybe at 11. Like there's Drew Waters could definitely
Drew Waters is probably going to find a way out of the rankings by midseason just because
that's a good point. So technically, if you really wanted to get technical, you could fall all the way out, and that'd be if you wanted to frame it that way. But in terms of like straight dropping, probably not. I think you look at the list, man. There aren't a ton. Like even if a Michael Garcia came out and struggled in AAA, I don't think he'd be falling, and he might even be up at the big league level and be working on that clock by the time that happened anyway. So I think Mazzucato at 7, and it's not predicting anything, it's not anticipating anything, but there's a lot of projection on the line. It's a lot of he's getting better at this, he's getting stronger, he's getting bigger. Like you have to justify that pick. Like you wonder how people look at him if he's not that top pick and he's like a second or third round guy they were just taking a flyer on, perhaps. I think there's a lot on the line for him, and I've used that line a lot throughout this pod because this is the year that at the major and minor league level guys have to start showing stuff because the timeline's only going to pick up, and if you don't catch up with it or keep up with it, then you're probably going to get left behind.
Is there anybody on this list that you really like want to bang the drum for of like, this is my guy, this is the dude that I really believe is going to be like just absolute stud this year, like kind of surprised me? Maybe somebody that not a lot of people know about, none of our listeners maybe know about if they're following the minor league super casually. If they heard a name on the list, like who the hell was that?
I think I kind of went with mine with Lacy, Marsh, and Jensen. I feel like Austin Charles is probably not a name you're gonna.
That dude's gonna be fascinating.
Yeah, and
I want to see if they let him pitch.
It's a two-way player, absolutely. I think he's got potential at both of them, but you're not gonna. I mean, his 2026 is the ETA. He's number 19 on this list, all raw. Trying to figure out exactly what he's going to be by then is going to be the interesting part. But he could be, in theory, skyrocket on this list.
I am so buying into Lisandro Rodriguez. Now, it was like an 18-game sample in Colombia. It wasn't much, but a 130 weighted runs created plus, /290, 389, 435. He's 20 years old. He was 19 when he was in Colombia. Very solid knowledge of the zone. Wasn't striking out a ton. Great bat-to-ball skills. Power's really starting to get there. Dude just hits the ball hard. And he's a switch hitter, I believe. So there's a lot to like there. He's pretty much a second baseman, but...very quickly could move up. I think he's at least he's going to start in Colombia, I'd guess, just because he's still so young and didn't get a ton of time there. But I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up in Quad Cities and ends up in like the top 18 by midseason as a guy that just, again, let Drew Saylor work his magic. And I fully believe that this dude's going to be a stud. There's a lot to like with what Lisandro Rodriguez showed at the end of last season and what he could be.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Will, just because I think that I believe in the person. I think the stuff is there, the ceiling is there, and it's just a matter of, again, staying healthy, getting confident, getting back out on the mound, and really, taking it out on some fools this year, and kind of reminding everyone of the profile, reminding himself of that. He's done a lot of work this offseason to get back to where I think he can be. Again, not a prediction, but I think I can see a world where he does kind of jump up and surprise some people.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of like here. That is going to do it for One Royal Way. Be sure to check us out. Spotify, iTunes. Like those. Follow those. Make sure you know when our shows go live. And be sure to subscribe on YouTube. Full video there. Check us out. We have a fun episode coming up next week. I'm really excited for you guys to listen to that leading up to opening day. And we'll talk to you then. Take care.
Thanks for watching this production of KC Sports Network, the fastest growing sports media network in Kansas City. Check out these videos that feature our team of more than 15 former players, insiders, and analysts bringing you the best Chiefs coverage you can find. Entertain, educate, inform. KC Sports Network.